What's a little secret that you know only because you work in that industry? Story 1. Carpenter here. After 8 years of framing houses, 3 as a foreman, and now 3 years of trim carpentry, I realized that the vast majority of houses aren't built to code or are just slapped together with the cheapest products. Most inspectors aren't willing to crawl around in the roofs and won't look in the subfloor, and plenty of contractors know this. They will take shortcuts, splice things together, or will block off and hide crappy work. If you have an island in your kitchen that has been framed, there is a phenomenal chance that you have some pizza crusts, Modelo bottles, or a piss bottle hidden inside. Drywallers seem to hate walking their trash to the dumpster. 100-year-old houses are a thing of the past. Story 2. The lumber industry is actually pretty crazy. The federal government will raise tariffs on Canadian lumber if the price starts to beat American lumber. If this happens, lumber mills will sometimes shut down for extended periods of time, essentially causing a lumber shortage. Because of supply and demand, this artificially inflates the price of U.S. lumber. This is a never-ending cycle. All of this causes incremental increases in the price of goods. Any goods that arrive on whitewood pallets, as well as building materials, start to increase in price because companies pass along this higher cost to the consumer. As with everything else that impacts goods, everything that is transported or built with lumber, you pay for the inflated costs on a daily basis. But it's probably the last thing you think about when going to the store. Story 3. A lot of the TV news you watch isn't really news, just a press release from a business, an organization, or a government turned into a news story. Used to work for a news clipping transcription agency. We'd have organizations or companies or governments calling us to say they sent some press releases to the newspapers, radio, and TV and wanted every news item that mentioned it. One local tech college changed its name after they repeatedly sent out press releases and had press scrums, and nothing they announced ever made it on the news because no one cared. Used to get angry phone calls from them saying we weren't doing our jobs, and we would check again and tell them no one talked about them. Story 4. Healthcare equipment costs are massively inflated in the US. For example, the batteries that go into the little blood pressure electric carts will cost hundreds to replace, but they are virtually identical to the game feeder batteries you can buy at sporting goods shops for maybe $20. And those costs are lower in other countries. The manufacturers know they can inflate costs in the US far more than anywhere else. It is cheaper to buy a replacement X-ray tube overseas, import it legally, pay all the associated fees and shipping costs than to buy one here in the US. Same tube, same specifications. Story 5. Nurse-patient ratios are too high in most of the country. Lower nurse-patient ratios are associated with shorter length of stay, lower readmission rates, and lower mortality rates. Nurses who have less patients give better care, and their patients are literally less likely to die. But there are only a few states in the US that have legally mandated nurse-patient ratios. I think only California and Oregon. In other states, many nurses have too many patients. They have too many tasks to complete in too little time. And this is why nurses are burning out in droves and leaving the profession. Because they feel like they are drowning. They are performing complex technical tasks under significant time pressure with a high degree of liability, and it is highly stressful. 17% of nurses quit within their first year. 56% quit within 5 years. Also, medical error kills somewhere between 250,000 to 400,000 people a year in the US. No one knows the exact number, as medical errors tend to be underreported. Because who wants to admit they may have killed a patient and throw away their lucrative career that they slaved away in school for many years to achieve? People are horrified when a single jumbo jet crashes and 500 lives are lost. And it is a big news story with lots of coverage when it happens. But the conservative estimate of 250,000 lives lost each year due to medical error is the equivalent of 500 jumbo jets crashing every single goddamn year. And no one talks about it. Not a peep. It is happening silently in hospitals all over the country, including the one in your town. This issue is highly underreported. Story 6. Most people don't realize that many artists and celebrities who do meet and greets or photo ops are often doing it out of financial need. In these moments, they're typically not as present as they might seem. Some are under the influence or simply exhausted. Behind the scenes, they often have 2 designated handlers watching for subtle cues to end the interaction and move you along. But what happens after the smiles fade is unexpectedly heartbreaking. Once they're done, many spend the next 30 to 45 minutes processing a wave of emotions, often feeling profoundly lonely and disconnected. They know they couldn't engage with fans on any meaningful level, and there's a sadness in realizing they're not who people think they are. It's one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever seen in this industry, a reminder that fame is sometimes just a carefully crafted illusion, hiding very human struggles beneath. Story 7. I used to work for Bank of America doing credit cards. They had a whole process for reporting social media influencers. Basically, if they said, "Your card sucks and I'm going to tell everyone I know, and my church, that you're a crook," we just say, "Sure thing, sir," and go about the day. But if they said things like, "I'm going to post this on Facebook," we had a form to fill out for some internal team to track. Anything that could potentially go viral had to be reported. Doesn't necessarily mean you'd get what you wanted, but they took influencers pretty seriously when I was there. It's all about how many people you could reach and influence. One person, telling all my friends and family, doesn't mean much, but a person on Instagram with 500,000 followers needed to be reported. Also, their customer service line is really a sales gig. They are all about selling you stuff, and we got bonuses and promotions based on how well our sales were. So because the incentive was to keep call handle time low and sell, I had people see an account without a sale, and they'd just transfer them someplace else. Eventually, I'd get the ones that had been transferred a dozen times, and I'd resolve their issue. But I watched people sitting next to me just transfer people with no sales pop up. And that way they kept their handle time low, and they were also top sales. Guess who got praised and promoted and paid bonuses? Not the people actually doing the customer service, I'll tell you that much. Story 8. I work at the Hershey factory. This place is really clean and does better in that regard than Lindt and other manufacturers most of the time during inspections, but we have occasional dings. Some of those dings can be pretty bad, like standing water in a wash pit, which is a big no-no, so it makes me wonder how much worse those others are sometimes. But really, if you ate chocolate lately that wasn't homemade, we probably have the most sterile and clean candy. Even if the ingredient quality isn't the highest, we also don't use spoiled milk of any kind. We take raw milk and turn it into sweet condensed milk, and in the process of cooking it, scalds the milk for a very slight sour taste that some claim to taste. Also, yeah, all our ingredients are quite cheap, but our milk is really high quality and locally sourced when possible. They usually don't have enough capacity though, so we have to get some from Indiana. And the caramel in Rolos is 100% legit. It's one of the few things we don't skimp on at all. Also, that little number on the wrapper of each bar you can call to complain or praise is real. And management and factory workers see everything that's posted and what we need to work on to be better. So if you have any complaints or well wishes, we actually see those even down to the rank and file. Story 9. Major oil companies played a significant role in promoting the idea that climate change is not real, or at least is uncertain. Starting in the 1970s and 1980s, large oil companies, including ExxonMobil and Shell, were aware through their own research that fossil fuel emissions contributed to climate change. Internal documents and studies conducted by these companies showed they understood the potential for global warming, driven by carbon dioxide emissions. However, rather than addressing the issue publicly, many companies chose to cast doubt on the science. In the late 1980s and 1990s, oil companies began funding research, think tanks, and public relations campaigns that questioned climate science. For example, ExxonMobil, alongside other fossil fuel companies, provided funding for groups like the Global Climate Coalition, which aimed to question the validity of climate science and lobby against climate policies. This campaign often included messaging that emphasized scientific uncertainty around climate change, despite the company's own findings that it posed a serious risk. Story 10. Veterinarian here. It is very hard to know exactly how people are handling your pet in the back. I don't mean they're beating or attempting to hurt your pet, but I've worked at clinics where the techs are given absolutely zero training on animal handling, and it's heartbreaking to see. I've worked a lot of relief shifts at different clinics. You can also have the exact opposite experience where your pet is treated like royalty. The dog is given cheese and peanut butter for vaccines, your cat is given gentle handling, and churu treats for blood draw. Don't try to go to a clinic just because of the price. Go there because you trust them with your pet. Gentle handling can truly help your pet feel more comfortable for future visits. And if your vet recommends anxiety medications to your pet prior to visits, please take them. This can really help a pet feel more comfortable. I hope this isn't seen as, oh, there you have it, vets are in it just for the money. But more as, I really need to get to know my vet and establish a relationship. Story 11. Many small HVAC companies are being bought up by equity firms as a cheap money-making venture. What this means is that many of them are being managed by people who have never taken a day of HVAC training in their life, but sure as shit know business. Upsells, add-ons, non-needed service contracts. HVAC techs who know what they are doing and are honest are being pushed out in favor of guys who can sell, sell, sell. It's a damn shame that the entire industry is trying to become the slimy used car salesman, considering an improperly installed or maintained furnace or fireplace can literally kill your whole family silently and without notice. Or worse, could level your house and your direct neighbors' houses in a gas explosion. Get a carbon monoxide detector on every floor of your home to protect your family. Get second opinions on HVAC work from different companies.